All right, for lab 1, you also need to know 18 different organs. You need to be able to identify them by sight so that if you see them being pointed out on the torso model, you're able to say, yes, I know what that is. You need to know what they are by what system or systems they're in, and you also need to know them by what cavity or cavities they're in. This, of course, means that when you take the Lab 1 quiz next week, you want to make sure you read the question so that you know what you're actually being asked. All right, here is the aorta, largest artery in the body. Here is the heart. The aorta is in the cardiovascular system, and it is found in the thoracic cavity as well as in the mediastinum. The heart, also part of the cardiovascular system, it is found in the thoracic cavity, in the mediastinum, and also in the pericardial cavity. That's right, the heart is in 3 different cavities. All right, here we have the stomach, portion of the large intestine, and the small intestine. The stomach is in the digestive system and found in the abdominal cavity, and anything in the abdominal cavity is also in the abdominal pelvic cavity. Large intestine is in the digestive system, and it is found in both the abdominal cavity and the pelvic cavity. And then the small intestine, part of the digestive system and found in the abdominal cavity. Here is the esophagus. The esophagus stretches from the back of the throat all the way down through the thoracic cavity and then comes into the abdominal cavity. Here we can see with this deeper view part of the small intestine and portions of the large intestine. You can see how the large intestine goes down into the pelvic cavity. The esophagus is part of the digestive system. It is found partially in the thoracic cavity and in the mediastinum. Again, the esophagus is stretching through the neck down into the thoracic cavity and then empties out to the abdominal cavity. We have the liver and the gallbladder. Here's another view of the liver taken out so that you can see its inferior surface. And lying on the inferior surface of the gallbladder, of the liver, is the gallbladder. The liver is in the digestive system and found in the abdominal cavity. The gallbladder is also part of the digestive system and found in the abdominal cavity. Here is the pancreas and the appendix. The pancreas is deep, harder to see, so the pancreas is posterior to the stomach. So the stomach would be here. The pancreas is behind the stomach. Again, here is the stomach. Here is the pancreas. Stomach, pancreas. Do not get them confused. And then down here's the appendix. Pancreas is in the digestive system and the endocrine system. So the pancreas is in 2 systems, the digestive system and the endocrine system, and it is found in the abdominal cavity. The appendix, which is technically part of the large intestine, is therefore part of the digestive system, and the appendix, this little squirrely bit here, is in the abdominal cavity. This pink-shaped structure here is the thyroid gland, and then this sheet-like structure here is the diaphragm. The thyroid gland found in the neck is part of the endocrine system, and it is not in a cavity. The thyroid gland is not in a cavity. Don't let that throw you. Oops. The diaphragm here, this sheet-like muscle, is in the respiratory system, important for breathing, and in the muscular system because it is indeed a skeletal muscle. And then the diaphragm is kind of not in a cavity. It separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal pelvic cavity. So we're not going to put it in a cavity. Here's the spleen. You can't quite see it here, but it is lateral to the stomach. So if we pull out the lung part, we can see the spleen. We can see it's underneath or inferior to the diaphragm. It would be next to or lateral to the stomach. The spleen is in the lymphatic system, and it is found in the abdominal cavity. Here is the larynx and the trachea. Larynx is sort of superior to the thyroid gland. It is superior to the trachea. Trachea is wrapped around by the thyroid gland, but also inferior to the thyroid gland. And the trachea is, of course, inferior to the larynx. Here in this mid-sagittal view of the head and neck, we can see the larynx, which is superior to the trachea. Trachea, larynx. Technically, this is the esophagus back here. And then, of course, we have the lungs, right and left lungs. The larynx is in the respiratory system. It is not in a cavity. It's in the neck. It is not in a cavity. Do not let that throw you. The trachea, also part of the respiratory system. Portion of it, behind the heart or posterior to the heart and aorta, is in the thoracic cavity and the mediastinum. So again, part of the trachea is in the thoracic cavity and the mediastinum. You can't see it here, but it is posterior to the aorta and the heart. And of course, we have the right and left lungs. They are part of the respiratory system. They're found in the thoracic cavity, and the right lung is in the right pleural cavity. The left lung is in the left pleural cavity. Continuing on, we remove most of the abdominal pelvic organs. We can see the kidney. There should technically be two kidneys, a right and a left kidney, but in this model, it is the left kidney is missing. And then way down here is the urinary bladder. Kidney, part of the urinary system, found in the abdominal cavity. Urinary bladder, found in the urinary system and in the pelvic cavity. Again, urinary bladder, 2 words, urinary bladder. You write only bladder, it will be counted as wrong. And that is it for the organs you need to know.